Good evening, everybody. My name is Alan. I'm located in Yulee, Florida, which is about 15 minutes north of Jacksonville. And I work for a company called Focus Audits, which is based in Tampa. And my current title is Information Security Consultant. My most relevant position, my last position, I'm currently working for a company called Focus Audits, which is based in Tampa. And with that company, I basically have two roles. I play two roles within the company. I am the information security officer for about seven community banks throughout the Southeast region. And so, with that, I am responsible for anything as it relates to information security. So, um, vendor management, disaster recovery, business continuity, regulatory requirements, all those different areas falls within my umbrella. And so, anything as it relates to IT audits, I assist with findings and recommendations, making sure that they're prepared with the exam recommendations, being able to provide them to them, helping them prepare for those exams as well. And then I also do IT audits as well for focus audits. So turn my hat around to the other side, and I do IT audits as well. So we go in, we do evaluate all the controls and considerations. We look at everything as it relates to information security, business continuity, vendor management, making sure that the banks are meeting the regulatory requirements of the FDIC, the FFIC, the OCC is another area of regulatory that we look at. So look at all those from a different perspective, and that's kind of my most relevant and current position with focus audits. To me, the most common software problem that I face has to do with security and permissions. I think a lot of times things are set up with the idea of making sure that whoever has to deal with that software can do their job responsibilities correctly. However, the problems that a lot of times you run into is that they are granted permissions that are more than what they need. So I think from the standpoint of making sure that they have, least permissions, as they always say, making sure that they have the right permissions, but not more permissions. I think that's one of the areas where I see the most situations where there's issues because now you're running risk of somebody being able to access areas or files and folders that they really don't need access to, being able to do certain things within that software that they're not necessarily required to based on the job responsibility. So one of the things I always look at and make sure of is that I look at what they have or what their job requires them to do, and then make sure that when you do a user access review, for example, to make sure that they have the proper permissions set, and if not, providing some guidance and some perspective in terms of, okay, this is what they need, they don't need these things, and so just trying to clean that up and to avoid additional risk, security risk, if you will. I think policies are you have to be when it comes to policies, you have to make sure that users understand what they have access to. So end user policies, information security policies and procedures, I think are the two main policies that I would look at providing, ensuring that employees understand what they have access to, what they don't have access to. Also, having and the key to all that is making sure that they understand and they sign off on that because you can create all the policies in the world, but if the users don't understand what they are, give them the opportunity to read them and make sure they sign acknowledging that they received those policies. That's a big key. A lot of times um, we go into things and we have jobs that we do day in and day out, and we have responsibilities and tasks. And I always tell companies that I work for and banks that, hey, you have to make sure that you have those policies in place and they have to be acknowledged by your staff. Even if you have to allocate some time and have a meeting, staff meeting to kind of go through the policies with your staff to make sure they have a clear understanding of what they are able to do and what they're not able to do, what's considered privacy from the standpoint of access, and obviously once you're logging into a company network, that the big old banner that nobody looks at, making sure that they understand, hey, once you log into this network does belong to this company. We have, as a company, have every right and we own every access, every action that you do on this network because it belongs to us. So just making sure your employees understand that, and from a privacy perspective, and making sure those policies are reviewed and documented, and at the most, make sure they are signed off on as part of your review of that employee, new hires as well as employees, on an annual basis to make sure that gets done. So to me, the biggest flaws when it comes to cloud applications is twofold. I think obviously, as I referenced earlier, security is one of the big areas because obviously making sure that the employees that have access to those particular applications have the right profiles and the right permissions in place to be able to do what they need to do without obviously having overkill as far as having more responsibilities than they need to. I think that's very important. It's always important. First and foremost is always access and security. The other area I think from a cloud application standpoint is the security of the actual application itself. When you're dealing with cloud-based applications, you're on a platform that's being shared amongst other companies and organizations. So when that is the case, making sure that those issues are not being overlapped, not making sure that somebody within a different organization does not have access to your applications and access to your employees and customer data and things like that. That's where you have to make sure that your vendor due diligence is properly done, evaluation of the data center, looking at all those different things from the standpoint of a vendor management perspective, um, user access controls and considerations, SOC reports, their IT audits as well. Just making sure that you look at all those areas to make sure that that cloud company organization that's housing your applications has the proper policies and procedures in place and the proper environment to ensure that your data is well protected. Because if it's not, then you do run the risk of that's the highest risk of somebody else that doesn't have permissions or are not authorized to be able to see your information is being able to now see your data, and that poses a high risk for you as an organization. When it comes to technical details, it's funny. My boss, when he hired me many years ago, I before I got into IT, I came from a banking background. Some little birdie told me that I should do accounting, and well, that didn't work out too well. So tried out, went into the IT arena. So for me, I think the biggest key is making sure you got to explain technical things in layman's terms. I've been very good at being able to because I came from the banking side before I got in IT, is being able to understand what employees are looking for and being able to translate that both ways, being able to take things that go from a non-technical role to being able to explain it to the technical people to be able to put something in place. And as well too, when you deal with presentations to the board of directors and to management, you have to be able to put things in terms that they can understand. Not everybody is very technical. I do like to do presentations because I think a manual, while it does help, I do think that doing something in a presentation format allows you to gauge, body language and background, and be able to explain things because words are words. And so, if somebody reads something and they don't understand it, then I mean, they're right where they are. They don't understand it. So, being able to do a presentation, be able to explain things, and depending on who your audience is, I think gives you greater control over being able to make sure that the message is being understood or whatever is being explained is being explained properly. Um, and sometimes you may think something in a policy is explained clearly, but it's coming from your perspective. So being able to understand and say, okay, look, maybe I didn't, maybe that I see why that doesn't make sense now that you mention it. Let me try it a different way. Let me give you a different approach to it. And I think that goes a long way to making sure somebody understands that is not very technical savvy. Well, I do enjoy sports. I'm a huge basketball fan. I'm a huge football fan as well. I do like dare I say, the Jaguars, who are, well, that's a conversation for another day. That's just depressing thinking about it. But I do like to spend time with my family. I'm a big family person. I have two kids. My son's 16, getting ready to drive, help us all, and my daughter who is 10, who thinks going on 17, as you probably know for those that have kids. So I do like spending time with the kids and really enjoying their time with them. I do try to play golf on occasion. I say I play golf. I dig holes. So but I certainly enjoy getting out in the environment and being able to do that. And so I just enjoy doing some outdoor things and really more so spending time with the family. Obviously with the things going on with this coronavirus and the kids being out for an extended period of time, I probably will grow hair so I can pull it out over the next couple of weeks because every time you turn around, their spring break's getting extended even longer. So just trying to find things to keep them occupied and keep me from curling up in the fetal position and crying like a baby. But so no, in all seriousness, I really do enjoy my family. I have a great family, great wife, great kids, and so we don't get the opportunity to spend a lot of time together because of my wife working and me working and everything else. So my son plays basketball, so I try to be a part of that as much as I can. My daughter's in dance, so we do spend some time doing that. So really, just all in all, just really most of anything else, being able to spend time with the family, and because I know the time goes by so fast, and it has even already. So before you know it, we'll be old and washed up, and they'll be out doing their own thing. So just trying to make sure I enjoy that while I can.